of Crossing the Nerdverse. Tonight, you are blessed only by myself and my fantastic co-host Eric. The rest of our crew is out with various forms of, I don't know, illness, shenanigans afoot, failed internet, storms, who knows what else. So it's just me and Eric hanging out.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah. There's one is uh the internet, and the other is sickness.
Indeed. So
Biohazard, I think is what he
yeah,
said.
I think he said biohazard. So we wish a rapid recovery to Travis, who is out with the ick. And there is a slim chance that Clark might be joining us tonight, but apparently she's in the middle of some kind of storm, lightning shenanigans, and her internet's out. And yeah, probably not great as far as the technicals go. So we're just gonna hang out, and we will pick up the continuing. I guess next episode then will be the new series. Then, huh?
Yeah, it'll be whatever new thing we decide to do. Um,
Indeed.
it might be a good time. We can always like look at wrapping up some review stuff with like the other TTRPG that we were playing. Um, Substratum
Oh yeah. So we could do
Protocol.
some substratum.
We could always just wrap it up like in the sense of like we've pretty much done most of the adventure. We just kind of let everybody know our final thoughts on it. From writing up the adventure to playing the characters and things like that.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I reconnected YouTube. It's not going live on YouTube, so we're just going to be on Twitch.
Hey, we're live on YouTube.
Are
It's
we?
showing us live. Yeah.
Oh, that's good then, because on my screen it is absolutely not showing me live. So that's good. I don't
All
know
right.
why
So
my stuff's all blah, but whatever. I'll make it work. Um, yeah, we can look at doing something like that next month.
yeah.
We're getting towards the summer of like a lot of big movies that are supposed to be coming out too, so that's some stuff we can look at. I kind of threw it out there to people to see what they wanted to kind of hear us talk about and things like that. So, waiting for any sort of responses with that. So,
Yeah. Hey, if they get engaged, fantastic. On the subject of new stuff coming out, we do have a few TV shows and some major movies coming out. Have you noticed anything for video games? We have a few indie developments that are coming out that I'm really excited about. Do we have any major releases coming out?
I have honestly been out of the loop with video games. Um, excuse me. I have been just I'm like tasked to like the heavens with stuff going on right now. So I'm like playing Elite Dangerous now. Like that's where I'm at with life. Um
Gotcha.
I don't I can't think of any big games coming out. I feel like I would have heard something if there was a AAA title coming out,
Yeah.
which is not good. Yeah, because I've mostly been following like there's a lot of really good anime coming back out soon. I know like My Hero's running right now. Their last.
Okay.
I don't know if it's going to be their last season or if they're doing one more. I know the manga's about to come to an end, so that's getting done with. But yeah, video game wise, yeah, I can't.
Yeah, not a lot coming out. Well, and I figure I know we always start with the reading, watching, playing, and we'll get to that in a minute. But you said coming out in the future releases, and I just noticed like I follow a bunch of the indie stuff, but there's no major triple A's, and I'm kind of like you. Like I stopped paying attention. I stopped kind of looking forward to that kind of stuff because the last couple that I started following really closely ended up being flops and they were not well received to the point where I didn't even end up buying them. And so I had like Skull and Bones, and I'm a huge pirate guy. Like I love pirate games and pirate fiction, and I didn't even buy Skull and Bones because it was so just review bombed.
Yeah, anytime you like hold on to a game and like a game has to be made for legal reasons, I think you're gonna have issues with it. Um, because I know that game in particular had to be made. There was a lot written up about it. Um, but I think the
Oh,
biggest thing I saw in games that came out was Star Citizen has now hit $700 million spent on it. Still no release date. Um,
no kidding.
yeah, so
Dude, are we gonna see a $1 billion game?
yes.
Whew.
My biggest question would be is will we see it hit a billion before a release date? I don't have anything I don't have anything against Star Citizen. I know I always come out
Yeah,
defensive of myself very quickly. Um,
and the
but
fans of Star Citizen love it. They say it's the best thing ever. So
I bought it and literally within 3 days returned it, and they were nice enough to refund my money.
hey, that's
Um,
good, good,
a lot
good
of
form.
yeah, a lot of issue and I don't even know what the issues were as to why I couldn't play it, and I couldn't get their support couldn't figure it out either.
Oh,
Um,
hey, we got James
so
Vance is in the chat. Welcome, Bones. Very faithful, never misses an episode. And he says the Elden Ring DLC is coming out this month, and that's a fact. Actually, that's one. So I don't play Elden Ring myself, but I'm one of those terrible people that I just live for the Elden Ring playthroughs on YouTube. And so like I've watched several, and so yeah, I'm pumped for the DLC coming out too.
yeah, I mean Elden Ring. I don't know. This is it's. I'm sort of like a not good video game fan when it comes to that because I like games that are very difficult usually, but I can't get into Elden Ring. I
See,
tried,
that surprises me.
and I just can't, it's just what's the other ones?
Dark
Dark
Souls,
Souls and stuff
any of the
like that.
FromSoft
Yeah,
style
they're
games.
just they're hard, so they're fun to play because of that. But I don't know, I can't deep dive get into them. Um, they're,
Well, and
they're
here's
just
my
not
thing
my
about the
thing.
FromSoft games, because there is a major difference between the FromSoft games and FromSoft fans. And in my experience, when it comes to games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, all the FromSoft style games, I love those games, not because I play them, but because their lore building, their world building, and the story they tell are amazing, and I love it. I have found, however, that because of the way they make their games, 90%, not all, but 90% of the fans out there are focused entirely on how much can they min-max and tweak and refine their build in order to beat the game the fastest and easiest. And so anytime I talk to anybody that's a huge fan of especially Dark Souls, I find the entire experience is it's like talking to a jock at the gym. It's all they talk about is what weapons they used, what build they're using, what the meta is right now, how much bleed they can proc and how fast. And it all ends up being where the fans play these games and it feels masturbatory. It feels like so self-serving. They don't give a shit about the world, they don't give a shit about the story or what's going on. And it's not all of them, but my God, I can't talk FromSoft with anybody that plays these games without hearing, "Oh yeah, my Rivers of Blood build can beat the final boss in 14 hits," and I'm like, I don't care. Why
All
were you
games have
fighting the
gone
final
that way,
boss?
though.
Oh
Games in
yeah,
general have pretty much gone that way, in the sense of a lot more people now play them for that type of thing ever since the internet came out. I mean, if you look at it, so when you started with Nintendo, I think there was ways to get um little cheat codes and different things that you could do. And then it slowly built up to where we got those big books, walkthroughs that you could get at GameStop that people started getting. And now it's gotten to the point where you can just Google the best thing you should build in a game instead of doing it yourself.
oh
Um,
yeah. Well, I mean,
so
and that's the turn of phrase, right? When you talk to anybody that's actually developed a game, the first thing they'll tell you is that players will refine a game until it's not fun anymore. They will play the fun out of a game.
see, I don't mind the min max thing only because um, if you want to play through it, you want to beat it, whatever. The only time I've ever I care is when you do it in the more competitive games and things like that. So when people do it for some of the MMOs, when you're competing directly against other players, it's kind of not very fun. But then technically, your team probably has people that did it too, so it's
Well, and
one
here's
half dozen
where
than the other. So I don't care as long as I get some play out of it, and it's
yeah.
not horribly broken. I find a lot of games nowadays have compensated enough where even though people min max things, you can stay competitive if you just have some skill on top of whatever the meta is you play. I usually do okay at Call of Duty and shit, and I don't ever play whatever the meta is.
Oh yeah. Well, and therein is my deal. I don't mind the min-max style play, especially because all the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring and all that jazz, they're 80-90% single player, right? Like you play the game however you want to play the game. I don't care. The way you play is not going to affect my game.
Yep.
Don't care. And when it comes to FromSoft games, they are designed to be a little min-maxy, right? You have to have a build going in order to just beat those games. They're designed to be that kind of difficult. And
Yep.
that's fine because you can beat the game as dual wielding bleed builds, as magic builds, as divine miracle builds, whatever. Um when it comes to players kind of like playing the fun out of a game, I think the MMO is really where you see that at its darkest because even when it's a non PvP, right? You will have somebody on the internet go out and say, "Oh yeah, the most efficient build for whatever, let's say DPS because that's a big one, right? The most efficient DPS is with hammers using this race and this class." Well, it'll be more efficient by like a fraction of a percent, right? Your DPS will go from 1032 to 1038, and that makes it the most efficient. But players take that to the extreme where if you are not using that, they won't let you on the team. Happens all the time in MMOs. Oh, you're not running this meta build for your class? I don't want you on my raid team. I don't want you on my dungeon team. In Destiny, you're not using this exotic and this exotic and this exotic. We don't need you. Get out. And
That's why I play with friends, like, or
yeah,
I just do it myself. Like, I've never raided a lot in Destiny because of that. Um,
exactly. I don't raid in Destiny for that reason exactly.
and I actually like the few times I have done the raid, like, I'm usually okay, even though I don't use builds. I haven't had too much issue with people wanting certain things. I have seen it, of course, but I guess I'm lucky. But
Well,
yeah, I haven't
and
had too many things with it.
I have noticed it changes game to game, right? In Destiny, a lot more often, I'll find people are just kind of chill. Like, I can jump in
Yeah,
with randos on the strike list. Nobody cares. Like, we're just going. Tally
not
ho.
usually. Yeah,
I can do Grandmasters. Nobody cares what my build is. Let's go. I can even do Trials of Osiris with randos, and they don't care. Like, it's just let's rock. And so a lot of times it doesn't really matter. What I'm talking about is just the existence that this does happen. Now, it happened to me a lot more in MMOs like World of Warcraft where if you're not running a specific build, they'll boot you even
yeah.
from random dungeon queue. And I'm like, why are you in random dungeon queue if you want this specific shit? Like, go talk to your guild. Um, and so it's not exactly that it's the most common, right?
No.
It just happens and it bugs me. I mean, the other side of that is when a game doesn't balance well, and they definitely have those god tier kind of weapons where this is the best armor in the game and this is the best weapon in the game and this is the best whatever in the game. Then after a couple months of gameplay, it ends up with what I call Stormtrooper syndrome, where it's just every player is the exact same character walking down the line, right? There's no diversity, there's no nothing. And so
I
that's where it bugs me on the game balance.
Yeah, I usually like I pick my favorite weapons. Like whenever I play, I don't ever. I'll try like whatever like the best like submachine gun is or whatever, just to say that I've tried it. But if I don't enjoy it, I'll move on. At the end of the day, if you have some skill to you, the only time it's gonna really play out is just if you're both the same skill. Then yeah, the meta will help that person win.
All right. Well, and
Um,
Bones just pointed out in the chat. He said it's going to happen with any kind of competition, especially
mhm.
whether it's video games or not. And he even brought up chess because it does. It happens in chess where you have the appropriate answer as the efficient answer for the appropriate move in the early stages of the game. And I think that's the nature of the competitive edge, right? That half of a percent fraction difference on DPS or armor soak or whatever will make the
Well,
difference.
I'd be one to say, and this will be a little controversial. I don't think a lot of people anymore care if they win on skill, compared to what it used to be. So I think nowadays a lot of people don't mind, and we don't even call them cheaters. A lot of people you don't mind if they use metas and things like that because everybody knows them now, and so people rely more on that than they do just pure skill a lot of times. And it's funny because way back when people wouldn't share like different things they did like that because they'd want that competitive advantage, from them playing through the game and figuring out themselves. And it's especially with like the social media aspects where I've seen the biggest change, where everyone like shares their loadouts or shares their classes and things like that, so people have a better idea. And they do it to get clicks and follows and stuff like that, which is fine. I don't give a shit either way. But I do think that video games as a whole has moved away from skill and more to like willing to adapt everything to kind of
See,
get the win and get better.
I think I agree with you only to an extent on that because when I think back to video gaming, even from when I was a kid, right? Me and my brothers, I have a large family, so bear that in mind. Me and my brothers used to just rip into people because we started calling pay wins before there was any kind of internet. And right now, because of the internet and because of social media and hell, because of like search engines, the first thing 50%, 80% of all players do when they start to play a game is they will look up playthroughs or guides or builds or whatever. But even back in the day in 64, people were going out and they were buying those big old books that was every secret in the game, total walkthroughs. They were buying magazines that were every secret in the game, how to beat this boss, and then trying to pass it off as their own skill. And I don't know how to break this to all of the gamers out there. If you get on Google or if you open one of these guidebooks or these cheat codes or whatever, and you copy a build and then win with it, you're not winning. You're letting somebody else's build win.
Well,
Like
you're
this is
definitely
not
not
your skill.
you're not being original for sure. But I mean, most it's weird to say. The more I sit and think about it, like most nerdy hobbies kind of have that though now. Like when you look at like a lot of people use similar builds in Magic, like when you see
Oh
tournament
yeah,
decks. Same thing
absolutely,
with like Pokemon. Um,
absolutely. Of Warhammer 40K, Age of
the
Sigmar, same thing.
I, I think the biggest place you don't see that is games like Dungeons and Dragons. Like the TTRPG world is still very everything's out there. I've never played the competitive side of it though, like where you play in that league or whatever that's going on. So I
Well,
don't
the
know if people
Adventurers
do it in
League,
that,
it's
but I
that
can't
even
see it.
that's not exactly competitive, right? The Adventurers League's a whole different kind of way to play the game. But even in Dungeons and Dragons, where there's not necessarily a win condition, I can't get on TikTok. I can't get on Facebook without seeing somebody being like busted builds for D&D 5th edition or how to break Pathfinder 2 or and it's that stupid shit you see where it's like, "Oh yeah, as long as you're this race and this class with this feat, you can do 300 damage a turn without using spell slots by level 3." And it's like, "Where does that get fun at the table? Like why?"
Um, yeah, I don't know. I've heard some people say some things about it, but I don't know. I've never experienced or messed with it too much. Um, I don't know. It doesn't to me. It just doesn't make really any sense.
Well, and it kind of falls back to the same thing I'm going to say about FromSoft, right? The people that play the FromSoft games like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, that's what they like. It's not really my jam. I don't want to look up builds or optimization. And the answer to that, of course, is that I don't play Elden Ring and I don't play Dark Souls. I don't play Call of Duty anymore because of this stuff. And with Call of Duty, I swear they get in and they just flip a switch like once a month where it's like, hey, SMGs are going to be God tier for this month.
Well,
And then they'll
they
turn it off and they'll be like, oh, sniper rifles are God tier this month. Um,
if you follow the like competitive scene, they do talk about that like um different like former players, current players, and different people will bring it up that like they do change um the weapons from time to time in a game that comes out. So there is some stuff that happens where the fans do have some pull when it comes to games, and I've seen it happen generally more for the bad than the good, to be honest with you. A lot of times I find people like some of the people that are more vocal are usually when they're not happy with something. Um,
oh, like calling for nerfs and stuff.
right. So usually I see people that are just content with the game, like, yeah, maybe the bazooka or whatever in this particular game is like super crazy, but I'm not gonna really complain about it too much because it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But then you'll get like other fans that are like just everybody's harping on it. And I've seen like things get nerfed in like horrible ways. Usually like MMOs are bad for that, I find. They'll take some advice and then they'll have some issues just because they take fan advice, but they only get it from like one group, and it's the group that's
Yeah.
willing to kind of, and it's their right to say something. They paid for the game. I'm not taking anything away from them. I should be more vocal myself. But I do find fans can kind of get in there, and then it can kind of drive it crazy.
Oh yeah, well, and it depends on what drives you crazy, right? Because, and like I was saying a minute ago, I don't play those games because it's not my scene. I don't play competitive games. I'm a casual gamer. I like story games. I like puzzle games. I don't want to have to worry about if I'm using X weapon or X armor. And even in games like Destiny, the reason I don't raid and I don't do a lot of the Crucible and competitive edge stuff is because I like my build. I like the way my shit works. I can do the content that I want to do. And so I don't bother with the other stuff. And that's fine. And the players that are in the competitive scheme that want to optimize and want to do all this kind of stuff, fantastic. More power to you. I'm about it, right? Sweet action. Um what gets me when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I'm going to use Destiny as an example. When Destiny balances its stuff, in mini games when they balance their stuff and they'll tweak this weapon down and this weapon up, and League of Legends does it a lot where this item will get tuned a couple of percent down, or whatever. Players will have extreme reactions to small changes, and they will say, oh, it's nerfed into the ground, it's completely unplayable, it's unusable anymore because its DPS dropped from 1038 to 1028. And that's simply not the case. But because it's not the top of the wall anymore, it's trash and you can't use it. And that's when you're talking about like the vocals of it. The loud minority, the squeaky wheels, will completely change the face of a game because of how much they bitch and complain. Because they can convince other people. They can convince people that are thinking about buying the game that it's no good. They can convince people that play the game to quit.
Yeah,
And I'm go ahead.
it's happened from time to time with things, and it's always interesting to me when it happens. I definitely, I don't know. It's good and bad for games. It makes them evolve games and things like that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well, and that's why I like the indie scene so much. The indie games that are coming out are small. They're not at the this AAA problem where it's incredible graphics and all this kind of stuff. They look good, but they're not at this kind of tier. But their gameplay is wild and varied and different, and
well,
you
yeah,
don't have to
because
worry
they're
about
not, yeah, they're not answering to a board of people and stuff like that. Like that's the difference.
exactly.
Like EA, I know they've been trashed. Like we've mentioned them in horrible ways a lot. Um, but it's because they're stagnant with a lot of their games and they know they'll sell because it's what comes out. Like I buy NHL. Now I usually only buy it on sale because it's the exact same fucking game from the year before with just new rosters. But they can do that because they're a AAA title and things like that. So even though that's one of the few that like even though there's a large quantity of fans that complain about it and say some shit, um, usually there's some big changes that come. Same thing with like Madden and stuff like that. Like you don't see the big changes in any of the sports games. It's usually just the rosters. Every few years you'll get something big, but it's nothing dynamic. But I agree, indie games are usually pretty good because they can just make a game they love, and usually if you make something you love, um, it's well received. Now, is it going to
Yeah,
be huge? No, probably not. Every now and then you'll get an indie game that like jumps off,
yeah. Every once
but
in a while, you get a Lethal Company style release, and
usually they're niche games, and the people that do play them love them.
well, and like Bones was saying in the chat, a lot of times it comes down to streamers and these programmers and the people that are creating the content for the game, right? That's a weird aspect to the video game world right now, because if it gets well received by streamers, if it gets YouTube plays and Twitch time, more people will buy the game. And so you do find a lot of these companies that are going out and they'll sponsor streams. They'll be like, "Hey, play our game for 90 minutes and check it out." And it's games I never would have heard of. There are games I'm looking into right now. One's called Paradise, which is a zombie survival game, but they inverted it where you can put little remote controls on zombies and control them like pets. And so you get your own little army of zombies. And it's a cool twist. Um, there's, Lethal Company is a really good example where this game comes out of nowhere with no marketing, no nothing, no hype. it gets picked up by a couple of streamers, and the next thing you know, it's getting played by big streamers like Markiplier, like Lord Minion 777, you know, and a lot of these major YouTube and major Twitch personalities. And now it's a huge game, and everybody knows what Lethal Company is. It doesn't have great graphics. Its gameplay is a simple, predictable loop, and people play it all the time, and it's an amazing game.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it's outselling these other major AAA titles. They're crashing and burning. I'm going to bring up Skull and Bones one more time. Skull and Bones came out under such controversy. Half the people were super hype about it, half the people thought it was going to be garbage. And so when it came out, everything that was good about it got wildly overshadowed by everything that was bad about it because it wasn't perfect. It had issues, it had gameplay mechanics that they didn't see coming.
You're a boat. You're not even a person.
Yeah,
Like that turned me
you're
off
playing a
right
boat.
away. Like
But
instantly, like you're a boat. You're not a person. You're a boat. Like
but here's the
fuck,
thing:
I'm not doing
you
that.
being a boat is not a deal breaker in other games. Elite Dangerous was that way up until just a couple years ago. The first 3, 4, 5 years of its run, you couldn't get out of your ship. You could not walk around on your ship. You were a boat.
Slightly different though. So I don't want to talk about video games the whole time, but the last thing I'll get on in regards to like the way video games are working right now. Um, the reason a game like Skull and Bones is never gonna work is because they was hyped up for years upon years, and on top of that, it was hyped up during a time when Black Flag was huge. Everyone loved it. So like it had they waited too long to release it. So even in its current form, if it would have released sooner on time like it should have, it probably would do a lot better. But the problem is just like anything in life, if you delay a game for fucking 4 years or whatever it was, and then you release what they did, that's not good. That's not good at all. For one, the game isn't even that good. And for two, people still play Black Flag and stuff, but it's not at the height of what it was when they started talking Skull and Bones.
Well, and
So
here's the problem with Black Flag.
that's the issue with Skull and Bones and other games
Yeah.
that do the same thing.
Well, Black Flag had the exact same flack when it released. I don't know if you remember because this was back in the 360 transitioning into Xbox One days, right?
Yeah.
Black Flag comes out, everybody's pissed because while it's a great pirate game, and right now the fans are calling it one of the best pirate games ever made. You know what it wasn't? An
An
Assassin's Creed
Assassin's
game.
Creed game.
And so it was getting flamed. It was getting roasted for being a terrible game because it wasn't an Assassin's Creed game. But here we are, whatever, 5, 10 years later, saying it's the example of pirate games out there. And so I can't. How do you trust this kind of stuff when it's arbitrary and fluctuates and changes?
So Black Flag, I remember part of it like when it initially came out, people had flack for it, but once it like actually like released out, it wasn't that bad. It was all the initial stuff because the original games were not linear, but weren't as they weren't the same style has it, and the transportation wasn't the same and things like that. So like it was two games into one basically because you had the naval aspect, pirating, all that stuff. Then you also had land, and people felt like if they only wanted to do the land aspect, they should have been able to. So like that, I think that was part of the issue with it. But at the end of the day, it did well when people gave it a chance. It did really well. Your Skull and Bones is doomed though. Any game that does that, like that's the problem. You can't when you come up with a great idea for a game that's based on the current hype of a situation, you can't release the game fucking two systems later when the
Yeah.
hype is gone. Like that's the thing. Like Skull and Bones was really hyped up because of ships and things at the time. And between that and just taking so long to come out and not being a perfect game is what did it. I mean, at the end of the day, like you
No,
can't.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Yeah, when it came to Skull and Bones, I guess I was in a a good position. And this kind of goes for a lot of the games that we're talking about recently, right? We just brought up Star Citizen, who's kind of having a weird problem they're tackling in a different way.
I don't know what their problem is because it doesn't make any sense to me. Like if you look at it, it looks like a pretty decent game. I don't know. I don't know if they're leaving it in this like collect money mode because they figure once it releases they won't make as much or what's going on. But definitely congrats for hitting 700 million and still
in
not even
production, yeah.
putting a release date on it for Star Citizen. Like I think that's fantastic. Like they're doing what Baldur's Gate 3 had done except to the extreme.
Yep. Well, and here's the funny part about that. You're talking about the release dates. Me and the boys used to play Ark Survival Evolved, right? Survival Evolved? Ark, this
Yeah,
dinosaur
I know
boat-based game.
Ark. Yeah, dinosaurs.
And the entire time I was playing that game, the whole run, it was early access, right? It was basically a beta mode. They had bugs everywhere. They had collision problems. They had huge gameplay issues. They were constantly changing, but they were constantly adding content as well. And so they continued to be like, we're early access. Please forgive the dust. Oh, by the way, here's DLC. Oh, by the way, here's this, here's this, here's this. By the time it got its actual release, it's like, okay, it's released. Here's Arc 2. And so they just kept it in early access until they were ready to release the sequel. It was the most Michael Bay thing I've ever seen in my life. And I can't believe that because I stopped playing the game. Next thing I know, there's 2 new versions of it, and it was in early access until I quit playing it. And so I don't know that release dates or early access or any of that means anything anymore.
So I think early access is a great idea, but you're not going to get a bunch of AAA companies to do it because it
It looks bad.
it not even just that it looks bad, it just takes so long. Um, and they don't make your money's more spread out and things like that, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then if you have issues with it, it's going to be very difficult to come back from that.
Well, and I think that a lot of
more
fans,
risk.
yeah, I think a lot of fans don't realize exactly what goes into the creation of a video game. And I think that's a major component is that everybody has got a different opinion on like delays, release dates, what they want a game to be, and what actually goes into making these big 3A, 4A titles. Because Bones is right. You got Skull and Bones came out as a 4A game.
Well, that's because it took a fucking decade to make it.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, Bones actually, yeah, 7 Days to Die, early access for 7 years plus. And 7 Days to Die is a fine game. It's not really my jam, but I think that you can handle it right. But we said this a couple episodes ago. It comes down to the hype, right? Because you need hype to make money. Hype gets pre-orders. Hype gets Kickstarters. Hype gets money.
well, and that it comes down to like you can't be like usually the companies that seem to do these early access are smaller companies that don't have to answer to a lot of people that get big that can afford to wait to get their big turnarounds.
Well, and the companies that are
So
larger that do early access stuff, they paint it differently. They paint early access as this exclusive thing that few people get to do. And so you have like public test servers and the PSTs on things like League of Legends, on things like any of these major games where you get to play Fallout 76 public test servers. Any games like that where it's this exclusive thing where you feel special to go and get to play upcoming content first, despite the fact that it's unbalanced, bugged out, and sometimes entirely unplayable.
Yeah. But I do want to get into one thing outside of the video game realm.
Okay, step outside video games for a minute.
Yeah, since we're chit chatting,
yeah,
I want to bring. I showed this to you earlier, so I went to CaperCon.
Yeah.
Great event. There was a lot of amazing artists and different people that were there. It's something definitely that people should check out.
Yeah, what is CaperCon exactly? Like, walk me through it.
Literally, it's like a small town Comic-Con. So there's like booths set up, selling different items, a lot of anime stuff, video game stuff. Like I've never been to the bigger Comic Con, so I can't compare per se. But like there was events and like different things that happened there. It wasn't bad. It actually was a little bit better than I expected because we're such a small community. Um, so I definitely give credit to everyone at CaperCon that like volunteered, gave their time, went there to sell stuff and everything like that. And I did try to buy like usually I buy local, but like when I was at CaperCon, like I tried to get from a lot of the artists and stuff like that instead of like the shops and things. And one of the things I got, I have yet to read it. I know, don't bash on me. So I'm showing it, and I think it's probably a halfway decent comic. I would imagine if you're into the horror stuff.
It
Um,
looks so good.
so I met the artist, or I met the writer, I should say, and technically the artist too. So he wrote this great story, he said, and the biggest thing was is he was having issues just kind of getting an artist involved with it. So I really hope I'm remembering all this correctly. So this was his art is actually um all done through a program. So like he took real pictures and things like that and kind of just edited it on the computer. I'm not going to try and guess what he used. I think it was something with Adobe, but
Yeah, some kind of
I'm not.
Scanner Darkly style. That's
So,
kind of cool.
anyways, and he did it all himself, and his name is Glenn Carabin. Sorry if I butchered it. Um, and I just think that's kind of cool. Like, and it seems to have done well. And like, if you could kind of see the art, like some of it, like it's a great way of. It should kind of give people hope if you can't draw very well, um, to release your story if you do want to do a comic. Because sometimes it's a lot easier to write for some people than to draw. So if you wanted to write a comic, you could facilitate your own art because it's not AI that a lot of people are upset about. If you use that for anything, you're still using something like, and you're still altering the picture and like making it something a little bit different. So it's a very interesting art, and I thought it was pretty cool. I do have to sit and read it. I do have a nice fancy autograph too. He's nice enough to do
Nice.
that. I got the first two. He's got a third one coming out. Um, that should be pretty good. But
No,
what's
that's
your
pretty
take
cool.
on that type of art style?
So I actually like it. I'm going to be full bore in support of it. Now, it is like you said, it's kind of away from the tradition, right? And it kind of steps away from that particular art style when it comes to comic book artists. But that's seeing art innovate in the comic scene has been part of the joy of comics for me. Because so in my comic book collection, I do Alien, Terminator, and Predator, right? I get all the comics that I can for Alien, Terminator, and Predator. And for Predator in particular, you watch the art style from 1988 all the way through continue to evolve into the modern art styles that we see in comics. And so you watch the Predator art styles evolve as you read the issues. And I'm sure you can do the same thing in like you look at Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man came out, a bajillion years ago. And the earliest art that you see in the really valuable comic books is wildly different. I'm not going to say worse, but very different than the art that you see in the modern Spider-Man comic books.
Yeah,
And so when it comes to something like what this guy did, there is still art in taking a good picture. There is still art in using these programs to create digital art. And so I support it. I think it's great.
yeah. I found it wildly like, and I apologize to any other comic people out there if it's been done before. I've never seen it, but I'm not that big into the comic scene. So I would have no clue if anything like that's been ever done before. But I thought it was cool. Um, I had such a great time, like the different art styles. Like people did something like I got this one. Sammy Francis did this Ninja Turtle cover. Um,
Oh yeah.
Huge fan. I liked it. It was
Oh,
different.
that looks fantastic.
Right. Like I know it's hard to see with that. I'll try to take some picture and post them up.
Yeah,
Just so
hit the
people could
socials with it.
check it out. She autographed it for me. Her favorite was Leo. I was a little surprised. I even told her that. I'm like, that's a new take. I was like, most people, it's Raphael. Like, I'm gonna be
I,
honest.
I'm a Raph man. I like Raphael. Have
He's
since I
just
was a
a
kid.
wild card.
Yeah.
I varied as I grew up. Originally, it was Raph, then it went to Donatello,
I
and
liked
stuff
Donnie
like
pretty
that.
good.
So,
Well, and when you look at it, I think that choosing your favorites, it's got something to it, right? I'm not going to say super to it, but the four turtles represent the four humors, right?
yeah.
And so the one that you vibe with the most says something about your personality. And you're right, you don't see very many Leo fans out there.
And like
Um,
you could even tell that she prefers Leo. Like if you could see Leo, like, hold on, let me kill this light so we can try to see this a little bit better. Like just the way she portrays Leo on the cover compared to the other three,
oh
like the
yeah,
aggressive, like that would normally be like the Raphael stance in the comic. And she made it to where Leo looks like the more aggressive and more badass and everything like that. Which I think is very cool. And she also actually did I think it was her that did the the like a Hawkman, like totally different.
oh yeah.
Um, but there
Well,
was
and
some
Bones,
amazing art there. Like, holy shit, dude. Artists are just getting, and the way people now are willing to do something not traditional with comics is getting fucking awesome.
oh,
Because
absolutely,
even though I didn't like
absolutely.
all of the variations I saw, I respected the fact that they were willing to fucking put themselves out there and do like these mainstream characters like the Turtles. I know that's not a huge variation what you just saw with that cover, but like it is. And the setup with like the way she did the Leo in the front with the aggressiveness to him compared to like Raph and stuff like that, like all that stuff is so much different than what people probably would have done like even 5 years ago, um, with main names like Ninja Turtles.
100%. And Bones brought it up in the chat that the variant covers and getting to see variant covers from different artists is a huge aspect in comic book collecting. He brought up, so I'm going to do a shout out, I guess, to Peach Momoko, who does these amazing soft line, I guess kind of hard line. Check out Peach Momoko's alt covers because they're amazing. I own several myself, and there's actually, especially in series that I really really enjoy, I will buy several copies of the same comic because I want the variant covers. We only find them when they're dead is a huge, like, I'm a huge fan of that comic series, and I think I own 2 or 3 copies of the entire series because I wanted the variant covers. So
And I'll be totally honest right now, I did not realize the extent of how variant covers worked with comics. So it's definitely been a lovely learning experience because, like, I had a really nice collection until I had to leave my last place and my collection of comics. Sad face. Um, but because I collected a lot of variants, like Transformer stuff, oh, like fucking crazy.
oh yeah,
But I didn't realize a lot of times variants are done by third party artists, like that aren't even inside the book itself. Like I didn't realize that. I always figured like a lot of times the variant covers were done by the artist that did the comic, but like there are like I didn't realize sometimes they just do the cover.
oh absolutely. Well, and one of my favorite things to do, so I've been to a whole bunch of different kinds of like little comic cons and conventions, right? I've done small town, I've done big town. I've never done the big one. Like I've never done San Diego or anything like that. But I have done Denver, I've done Albuquerque, New Mexico. I've gone to several through Texas, and I love whenever they're a little bit smaller because you will get those artists come in, and a lot of times you can do commission work from them there at the convention,
Yeah.
and you can get originals from the convention there that are you're not going to get them anywhere else. And I know the last one I went to, I believe I was actually with Bones in Colorado, and that's what I spent the vast majority of my money on, was just cool art prints and originals. And I don't regret that at all. I think it's amazing. And so I love hearing about these artists that'll just do covers. That's fantastic. That's what I'm buying them for anyway. Probably one in five of my comic books I haven't even read, just because they're in the protection, and I just have them. They're like art pieces that I put on the wall. So,
See, I
100%
read
with
them.
you.
I don't care.
I
I
read a
read them.
lot of mine, but not all of them.
So this was another variant
Oh
that was done.
yeah,
Brianna June.
Brianna June. I know that name.
So again, if you look, even she did it like Raphael's got the more serious, like combative stance compared to the four of them and stuff like that. Um, I find hers was a little bit more human-esque, like with their body style. But
I
I
kind
liked
of
it.
like it
Like,
because
yeah,
she
no,
brings a
it
lot
was
more
still cool.
attention to like the body itself, right? A lot more attention to the limbs and the positions, but the faces are kind of ignored. And other artists, they get so hung up on trying to do the right face that they lose it. So yeah, I think that one's fantastic.
I also like the fact that it's all black and white except for their masks.
Oh yeah,
That was pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely I recommend any even like small local cons to people if they're there. Go and check them out. And Bones brought up a good thing I never knew about either. Sometimes they'll have like blank covers for comics there, and people can do customs.
oh
I
yeah.
didn't know anything about that. I saw something like that, and I just thought this guy like I'm not saying I he destroyed it, but I thought like he just added two comics because there was one stall there where there was like these clear covers that he had drawn his own cover for it, and I just thought he added like a almost like some
Like
special
upcycling.
paper. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know, like just stapled like an extra sheet to a comic, like as an extra cover to it. I didn't thumb through it because it's obviously he had it sealed.
yeah. Well, and that's something I didn't realize until I started getting into the comic scene myself. I guess shout out to Hall of Justice Comics in Colorado, but I didn't realize that was a thing. Bones actually educated me on a lot of that, where you can just buy blank covers. And there was one of them. I I forget the guy's name. He was one of the artists that worked on the Spawn series. That he was just at the convention, and he wasn't even really charging. He was just kind of doodling, and he just came by, dropped off your stuff, and hung out. And I thought that was super cool. And I would love to get some of the original artists or artist takes on certain comic books, because being able to get a Peach Momoko Predator cover would be amazing. And I I would love to see some of these other style of artists get a hold of other, I don't know what to call it, franchises, IPs, and just get their take on it. I think would be super cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Like they really did like a lot of different characters. Like they did a lot of the mainstream ones, of course. There's quite a few like Fallout and things like that. They were kind of playing to the moment, but I did see some like other things. Someone did a really cool take on Optimus Prime that I
Oh,
really
nice.
liked. Yeah, I was just running out of money, um, so I definitely um, didn't have enough for everything. Another artist I want to shout out just because I talked to him for a little while.
Okay.
Um, Dark Sanctuary. I think he's mostly on the East Coast, is where he is. Um,
Stuart and Sandy Cuth. What was that one?
Carruthers. Sandy Carruthers
Carruthers.
is the gentleman I met. He signed it. I bought all four of the Dark Sanctuary. Um,
Fantastic.
I'm gonna probably give him a read, and then if we ever generate more traffic, we'll probably look at raffling some signed stuff off because I don't need to keep it. I like sharing, um, and it just grows things because all the artists, well, at least the two comics I showed you, Dark Sanctuary and Dartmouth, they're both more of the local, not like Cape Breton local, but like Atlantic Canada, East Coast kind of local is what I gathered.
Okay.
Um, so it'd be nice to share it and like get it out there a little bit more than what it probably already is. Um, so it's pretty cool.
No, I think that's kind of, it's a neat thing to bring up, because we don't do a lot of comic book coverage, right?
We
It's
don't.
probably it's one of our least covered subjects as far as the nerdverse goes, which is a shame, because we have so many huge fans and comic collectors that are part of our viewership, that I just don't think that culture gets enough attention. And like you were saying a minute ago, it wasn't but just a few years ago where I learned that blank covers were a thing when it come to comic books, or the different styles of collecting. Um, because some collectors won't even actually they don't latch onto a comic book series. They don't just buy Spider-Man, for example. They will find their favorite cover artist and buy everything that cover artist does. And so you end up with like Magneto number 17 just because it was the artist that did that, right? You end up with 7 copies of Deadpool number 4 because that artist did a bunch of variants. And I think that's kind of cool. It's aspects to the collectors that you never think about, because when you ask that doesn't know anything about comic books, they generally know is that certain comic books are worth a lot of money, and so you will send them to companies and spend a lot of money to get them graded and protectively sealed.
Yeah.
And then that's what they know is like, oh, you took a comic book, you never read it, you locked it in a plastic airtight box, and you left it there. Okie dokie.
Yeah, I don't know if I could like I can do it with cards probably like hockey, basketball, football cards. I would never do it with comics. I like my literature too much. I like being able to go back and read stuff. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
that's just kind of what it is. And I prefer it over. I know I could download these things electronically and read them on my iPad. I prefer the actual books and the comics and stuff like that. Nothing against anyone that reads in their digital shit. That's perfect. That's what it's there for. I mean, I've definitely read a book or two on digital, but I just, for collecting purposes and stuff like that, I just like to have the actual thing. And I
Well,
don't do it to be worth something later in life. I just do it
yeah,
because I want
it's
to
part of
see
your
what it's
personal
like.
collection. So I'm the same way. I have a few that I got a hold of just because I had the opportunity the time to get, this one's kind of valuable. I kind of valuable. I don't have anything that's crazy, right? Like I have some comics that went from $4 at release to now it's worth like $50, which is cool to me. But I buy omnibuses and collections. That's what I like. And so my weakness is I'm gonna get the entire. Let's see, what do I have? I'm gonna get the entire Wonderland Asylum in 3 books instead of having to buy 56 comics. Um, and then when I find ones that I really enjoy, that's where I'll start to buy the individual comics. And so the only ones I'm big on right now, again, Predator, Terminator, and Alien.
Yeah.
I bought one on a whim one day to read my children because I wanted something easy for my girls. They like comic books. They see me reading them all the time. And so for life of me, I cannot remember what it's called, but it's about a little steampunk robot kid, and he's like an adventuring knight.
Interesting.
And it was super cool. It was more mature of a story than I was anticipating for the time, but my girls ended up falling in love with it. They absolutely love that character. And so I've continued to buy those to where I just have it on a pull list where it's like, hey, whenever there's a new one comes out, give it to me. I want it.
I want to do a
And
pull list, but they make it like not super difficult, but like the local place makes it a little harder than I'm used to. So so the other shops I've always been to with pull lists, all I would have to do is like show them a comic and then they'd write it on paper. And I was like, I want these 5, and I'd hold them up and they'd like write them down and like they'd do all the work for me. Here
oh
they
yeah,
want you to do a little bit more yourself. So I don't do, which is good for me because if they made it easy, I'd have a pull list about 15 comics long right now,
right.
which is very expensive. So
Blowing all your money every month.
yeah, right. So I'm glad they put the onus on me to make the list and turn it into them because I'm never gonna do it.
Oh
So
yes,
that's
Bones.
good.
Trade paperback. That's the term I could not think of. Not omnibus. I do own some omnibus, but that's a different thing. Trade paperbacks are where I land in my comic collection a lot of the times. Um, so do you collect, Eric, or do you just have a few that you hold
So,
tight?
so I've started collecting again. I'm just still sad that I lost my old collection because like I was buying a lot. So I've had a few hundred. Um, I had a lot of like when Transformers started getting really big again, when the movies and stuff came out, like Generation One, I had a lot of those, and like the variant covers too. I had like when Mega Man came back out with IDW, I had all of
Epic.
those. I had a decent little fucking collection. Um, but yeah, I started collecting again. Usually, I have right now. I've got a lot of like 1 and 2s for stuff, just trying to find something I like. I don't have like one or two of the X-Men series I've collected several of, but usually uh, I just get the first 1 or 2 to see if I like it. and then I don't keep up. So, but I have
Okay.
probably about 50 or 60 comics again already, something like that.
So I never got big into collecting until I was already an adult, but I collected what I could when I was a kid. And the town where I grew up, there was only a couple places that ever sold comic books, right? And the majority of the time, it was this little bitty shop right next to the barber shop called the B&B Newsstand. And they would get random, random comics in there, just whatever they could get. Didn't really matter. It was a little section. And so I would buy from there. And I ended up, for a while, I was buying everything that I could that was X Men. And so I had a very large collection of X Men, but they were all over the place, right? I had Uncanny, I had not Astonishing, yeah, Astonishing X Men. That's right. And I had a bunch of like Wolverines. And then whenever I was a teenager, we got a Hastings, which was the best thing to ever happen ever. And that's where I got into collections and trade paperbacks and that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's fantastic. I lost all of those unfortunately in a house fire, which I'm still not over,
Yeah, when you
if
lose
I'm
your
being
nerd
honest.
shit, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, like I still we lost a bunch of stuff in that house fire, and there are a few items that I lament. One of them is my comic book collection. We lost my wife's wedding dress, which was a huge bummer. Um, but every once in a while, I'll still end up where it's like, I wonder if any of those Wolverines were special.
Yeah.
Um, but I've also got into it, and I guess this is where my mindset goes, is because when it comes to comics, for a long time, I started jumping on like a lot of the one-offs or niche kind of comics that were fantastic, but nobody knows anything about them. Probably like within the scene they do now, but we only find them when they're dead. I brought it up a minute ago.
Yep.
Fantastic sci-fi series, right? I recommend it to anybody that reads comic books because I think it's one of the best I've ever read. There's another one I got several, not a complete collection, but I got several. It's called "Something Is Killing the Children." Incredible horror story, fantastic. Anybody that likes horror comics, I recommend that one to them. And yeah, it's just stuff like that. And then I have a bunch of random ones because I started collecting art covers. Because if you hang out with Bones long enough, you end up buying comic books. And now that you're buying comic books again, I know it works by proxy. So
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it more now, probably. Again, I'm gonna try to start doing more conventions, and hopefully, as our audience grows, I can definitely start raffling some of it off, um, out to people and doing some stuff like that. Because I want to hit up. Maine has a rather decent size.
whoa, 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 whoa! Something Is Killing the Children is getting a TV show. Hold the phone.
Yeah, see, Bones knows everything with comics.
Yeah, that's why we brought him on the show. He's our expert.
But no, I do like. I'm gonna hit up Bangor's got a big Comic Con thing, um, and they got a lot going on up there in regards to the nerd scene. So I do want to make it up there at some point, get some autographs, collect some stuff, put it all away. So once this podcast takes off, we got plenty of back stock to like raffle some shit to people,
Yeah, there
and,
you
it, and
go.
it's not a big deal.
Oh, how did I not know about this?
There's a lot of stuff going on, man.
Wow. Something Is Killing the Children is getting a TV show. That's amazing.
And my last nerdy thing, gonna be really hard to see because of the plastic. I got myself a spiffy glow in the dark Deku.
Epic. Hey,
Um,
you need it, man. You need it.
right, yeah, no, absolutely. Upside to the Caper Con is the last day. A lot of people are selling stuff because they don't want to pack it up and drive home with it. So sales happen. You get some stuff at some pretty good prices.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's always good to increase your nerd cred with collection items.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, well, and we did a whole episode on like knickknacks. Maybe we should do another one at some point. But I love nerdy knickknacks. Like I can't help it. And there's a lot of people like you brought up the Funko Pops. There are people that collect Funko Pops to a degree that I did not know was a thing.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about exclusives and special releases and the don't take it out of the box level, like Star Trek action figures collecting of Funko Pops. Um, and I just kind of bought them because I thought they were cool. So I bought a handful of Funko Pops that I'm like, hey, I have a Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, right? Like I have a T-45 power armor from Fallout 3. And I kind of want to get a larger Funko Pop collection, but now that I know there's a whole scene for it, I'm scared. I'm afraid, right? Like
So I honestly I base most of the nerd stuff I buy off of things that I like. I'm not
okay.
someone that's a collection. I don't have to have everything. So like Transformers, I think I have one Decepticon. I don't know why someone even bought it for me. I appreciate it though because it was a gift. So thank you. Um, but like I don't collect Decepticons. I collect like 99.9% of my collections Autobots, mostly Gen 1. I
Oh,
have a
okay.
I have a few of the Beast Wars ones, Maximals, but like generally speaking, Generation 1 Transformers is what I have. And then I also tend to collect the random one-offs with different things like characters I like. So I don't own any nerd swag that isn't characters I like. Like I have Raphael still in its container, like action figure. Um, I have Meliodas, the action figure, still in the container. I have Halo, just the Master Chief, not all those extra fucking ones. Yeah, they're cool. They're Spartans and stuff, but like I don't feel the need or compulsion to like go out and get it. Um, Even like the Funko Pops I used to have, I lost them with the comics too. They were all characters I liked, like different Dragon Ball Z people and stuff like that. And if I start buying Funko Pops again, it'll still only be characters that I like.
And I think I'm
I
in a similar boat to you on that because when I look around my room here, I am all over the place because I have Mass Effect and Destiny, Alice in Wonderland, I have Magic the Gathering, I got StarCraft, Firefly, Alien, BioShock, Final Fantasy 7,
and you probably only have
Majora's
the
Mask.
characters you
Like,
like from that stuff.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
like you don't have full collections. Like I don't feel a need to have like I have like My Hero Academia stuff, and I only have the characters I like. Say like
say, hey, nothing wrong with that.
it's
I think that's cool. And now that I'm starting to get a little bit more into anime, right? And I'm starting to watch it a little bit more. There are a handful that I kind of lament not having something from, because for a long time I was super into Bleach, right? I thought that was the best, and then the Mod Souls storyline came out, and I stopped. But I had opportunities at cons to buy like replicas of the swords, and I wish I would have done that, or costumes, or even hats. Like I like hats. We got Bloodborne. So, these are things that I regret that I didn't do, just because they're one-offs, and I never felt a compulsion to be like, I'm going to specialize my collection and get all of this thing.
oh yeah, and I definitely know people that do that. Like, and power to you if you need to have everything in a particular set. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just I can't I can't do it.
So
I
when it
don't
comes to
like
collecting,
everything.
I have noticed that I have a tendency to encourage kind of group collecting, if that makes sense. So, Magic the Gathering, for example, I have a group of friends that I play Magic with here in town. We're not super heavy collectors. Generally, we don't even buy booster packs and stuff unless we're drafting. I just have some cards and we'll play. Well, they started releasing these commander decks that come in 4 different variations. So it's like, oh, cool. There's 4 of us. There's 4 decks. Everybody buys one, and we play them, right? And that's kind of how the collection happens. And I've done that for so long that when I hear somebody saying they bought the full set of it, it kind of takes me off guard. Like, what? Why? Um, the Fallout set for Magic the Gathering. I've been playing that with my friends a lot here recently. It's been a lot of fun. And I just talked to Big Rob the other day, who has agreed to come on the show and talk to us about the 501st, by the way. Little preview for everybody that listens.
That'll be fun.
Oh, yeah. Super excited. Super excited to have Robbie on the show. Um, but he just told me, like, yeah, he was super excited about the Fallout stuff. And he bought a 4-box collection of all the commander decks. and it did take me back. Like, why? It's because he collects them, which is cool. More power to him. It's fantastic. It's not the way I do things, but more power to him. I think it's cool. But I
S-
also, kind of like you were talking about with the hockey cards a minute ago, I can't do sports cards. Like, I know
I can
that's a
do sports.
giant thing, but I can't do sports cards. If I can't use it in a game, I'm not interested.
Yeah, sports cards are a little more fun. Like this is what I mean though. Like I just collect random, so it's just a
Just a cool
Union
card.
Arena
Yeah.
Gojo card. Um, uh, Tanjiro, same thing. Union Arena. I don't even know what the hell Union Arena is. I just bought these packs. It's all in Japanese. Um, I'm sure it must be like some. I'm sure it's some sort of Magic style. Like
Yeah,
it's a
some
trading card
TCG.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because they got like base points in the bottom left corner and stuff like that. And it looks like a cool game. I'm never gonna play it. As I see packs for like the different animes I like, I'll probably buy one here and there. But that's what I mean, like in regards to like I don't feel compulsion to go get every one of these. Um, I'm probably gonna end up the two I showed you. I'll end up getting like hard plastic for at some point and like putting away.
Just to have for
Um,
like display kind of thing.
yeah, just like that, and they'll stay. Just like these cards here that are kind of cool. I found these. I don't even remember where. Um, they're 3D ones, so they're like
Oh,
that.
nice.
Yeah, but the absolute cool part is that you can open it up so the background goes away and it's just the card. So that's what I mean, like in regards to collections, like I love collecting things to the shows and the characters I like.
There you go.
Um, and it can be a lot of fun. So I am gonna try next time I go to a con like CaperCon next year. I'm gonna bring a couple of these and see if I can get some the artists there to kind of do some commission work.
Excellent. Yeah, no, fantastic. Oh, it's been too long since I've done any of the major conventions. I've actually, now that we're talking about it, I kind of got the itch, right? Like, I wonder if there's something coming up. Which is funny
There
because I
should be.
just did my local Ren fair and I'm absolutely broke from that and regret nothing. But now, yeah, now I'm itching.
Yep.
On the subject of things that are coming out, I completely spaced. We got Deadpool, what, 3 coming out very soon. And they just released, I don't know if you've seen it. Did you see the release for the popcorn bucket for
No, but
Deadpool
I'll
3?
be sharing that later on our. So I've been pretty good with putting any new movie things on our like Facebook page, so that way people can just go there to see the new trailers. So I did see the trailer for it.
Yeah.
The popcorn bucket is it's like Wolverine's head, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, so talking about collecting, I never paid attention to any kind of like collecting popcorn buckets
yeah,
kind
I
of
wouldn't
thing
know.
before. I never would have looked into that. And now there's a lot of traction going towards popcorn buckets because the one for Dune got super famous and out there because of its design being a little unusual. And so now Deadpool's parodying, making fun of that with this new
See, but
Wolverine popcorn bucket.
they should have done Ant Man. That's what I
Oh,
would
they
have done.
should have
That
done
would have been the
Ant-Man.
fucking smart play. Like if they wanted to make a boatload of money. And Ryan Reynolds, if you change your idea and do release an Ant Man bucket, I would like at least a handshake. Um, I don't
Just
need any
10
money.
we need
Uh,
we need 10 minutes on the show. You can
yeah.
just you can remote in, man. Like
But I think that's where they would have made their money if they wanted to make something crazy and exclusive. I would have done a popcorn bucket with Ant Man. Like how he was dead and like oh they go inside Ant Man, like his body
yeah.
in the movie. So that would have definitely made them some money. But we'll probably soon, not much longer, we'll have to talk about all the summer movie releases. I don't think there's as many as there used to be. A lot of movies keep seeming to get pushed to the right and they're taking years to come out um,
Yeah, well, and
compared to what they used to. So I don't think
what's
this summer is
funny,
going to be that big of a movie
no,
thing, if I'm not mistaken.
which there's a few of them that I latch on to that I really want to see that I'll follow, but the rest of them kind of hit the wayside. And so like I really want to see the new Planet of the Apes movie. It's in theaters right now. I haven't had an opportunity yet, but I also haven't been too terribly stressed out about it. I want to see the new Deadpool just because it's Deadpool. Like I have to. It's a contractual obligation. And I'm looking forward to some of the other like Pixar movies that are coming out. You know, we got Inside Out 2 is coming out later in June, and there's a few of the movies that are coming out that I'm excited about. But yeah, it doesn't look like I'm going to be too much in the movie theater this summer. A lot of the TV shows have been super cool. Oh, which reminds me, X-Men '97. Have you watched it?
Yeah, no, it's really good.
So I just read an article earlier today talking about how it is still rated at nearly 100% on Rotten Green Tomatoes and is now officially the highest rated television show, I think, of the 2020s or something like that. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I don't remember exactly what happened. But yeah, apparently it is breaking some records and getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in regards to like records or anything like that, but it was good. They did it justice. I'm looking at like a list of the movies coming out this summer. Not super pumped like previous summers. Um,
We got
but
any standouts?
the new Bad Boys movie.
Okay.
But one exciting thing I will say about this is since there is so many that are like not there, it seems like there's a lot of original IPs coming out for movies, which I love to see. We're not getting a bunch of fucking sequels, triquels, quadquels, and fucking whatever else that's coming out. It looks like a whole lot of like fresh IPs are coming out this summer.
Okay.
Um, so that's exciting. Anytime we can get a whole bunch of new stuff, I'm definitely for it. Oh, this one's kind of A Quiet Place Day One.
So like
I
a
don't know if
prequel?
any. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone saw that. That was a pretty cool one.
I liked A
Um,
Quiet Place. It was solid.
yeah,
It
that was
had the dude that played Mr. Fantastic in it.
yeah.
Can't think of the guy's name.
Krasinski.
Yeah, Krasinski.
He was also in The Office.
Yes. There you go.
Oh, Beverly Hills Cop. Axel F is coming out this summer.
Like a remake, reboot, I guess.
Like a continuation. So there's a few names coming out, but like this summer definitely doesn't feel like a regular summer with like 20 fucking Marvel movies and DC movies and everything else.
Fair
So
enough.
it's definitely nice to see. And like the Marvel movie we're getting isn't even coming until July. So we're getting Twisters getting remade. I forgot about that.
That one surprises me. Of all the bizarre '90s movies, early 2000s movies to get a lot of attention, Twister getting a remake is interesting to me.
Oh, Borderlands is finally coming out this summer.
Yeah, we got Borderlands coming soon. I know we have BioShock
Um
coming to Netflix, but that one's not till 2025 or 2026, right?
yeah, oh yeah, he did direct it. James just pointed out. Krasinski directed A Quiet Place.
Oh,
He
I
didn't
did not
just
know that.
star in it. Yeah. He actually I saw an interview where they were talking or an article they talked about he actually fought to have a particular actress on there that was actually hearing impaired.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's true that she taught a lot of the people the sign language on like set and stuff like that.
See, that's pretty neat. I like that a lot. That's pretty cool.
I mean, the dude had that awesome fucking show. I even watched that news thing he did for a little while during COVID. Krasinski did it. I can't remember what it was called, like Happy something, and he did it like a news show, but it was only positive news.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was only like uplifting, positive, like no dark side of the CNN news thing. It was cool.
Trying to balance the
Aliens,
scales a little bit.
right? Aliens is coming out with a new movie this summer. So yeah, okay, there's
There's a few.
few things coming. Nothing, but it's still not like your typical summer.
Well, and Romulus, I'm excited about. Let me see release date on Romulus.
August.
Is it August? August
Yeah.
16th. So yeah, it's looking like as summer winds down, a lot of the ones that I'm interested in are coming out. There's a handful through the summer, but what's bad is I keep catching myself getting excited for some of the TV shows coming out, right? And then I look and it's like, oh yeah, it's slotted for 2026, and I'm just like, why are we getting trailers for it then? Like, grr.
But some good news. That was the stuff he
Oh,
did.
some good news. Okay,
Yeah, SGN, and he did it like in his house. Like
nice. I can get
fucking
behind that.
yeah, it was sweet. Like it was really nice to see during COVID. Yeah, there's some shows. Disney is just I think Disney's is an interesting thing. Um, I'm gonna be curious as to how they keep going with everything because they've got so many projects going, so many hit times. There's a lot to it, but they're still doing it. I think I talked about. I'm surprised when we started the podcast about Disney and their schedule, and it just seems to kind of continue. They just make changes and keep going. So I don't know. It's interesting, but it definitely seems like we are in for kind of a lull of the summer with the Nerdverse, and then I'm going to be curious as to how crazy the fall is going to get because of that.
Yeah, starting in August, September time, I feel like there's just going to be boatloads hitting the market.
Well, there must be some really big, especially video games coming out Christmas time since there
Oh yeah,
isn't anything
holiday
crazy coming
release.
out right now. There must be, and we'll of course update everybody.
Yeah, we'll be.
We're pretty good
Well,
with.
and for anybody that's wanting to follow any of this, our Facebook is where a lot of these will go up. A lot of our one-off kind of news articles or points of interest will go to our Facebook group. And while we're talking about our other social medias, and terrible segue, if you made it this far into the show, guys, we want to make sure and thank you personally. Your viewership is why we continue to do this and what lets us do it week after week. And so, if we can, like you to do all the fun algorithm things, give us a like, give us a share, your friends, the same thing. If we're left on mute in the background on a tab, it is super helpful. Um, so please give us a like, give us a share, and tell your friends about us because that's what we do.
Yeah, most of the time when I post anything in regards to like trailers and stuff, usually that's on the Facebook. Um, just because it's easier. It's right there. But we are on like absolutely every platform.
Yeah, all over the
Um,
place. And while I'm here, we don't plug it very often, but I'm going to go ahead and plug it right now, guys. Our link tree leads to our merch store, and we have our summer line out there right now. It's super cool stuff. Go check it out, and if you like it, maybe get some.
yes, so I do have to do some updating with the merch. I was thinking about that today. Um, I'm thinking about going with a little bit of a different design on the t-shirt. I've been messing with the logo with just the CTN,
Okay.
as opposed to all the other stuff, just to see what happens with it. I'll probably make a shirt, throw it up for the summer. Um, See what it does, how it does. Not that the logo's going anywhere. I do love the Crossing the Nerdverse logo. We put some time into it, so it's nice. But I like to have something else also. It's just fun.
And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our little sit and chit chatting episode, guys. It's been absolutely wonderful. You can hit our link train. We're on every platform ever. Tell your friends about us and give us a like, give us a share, and we will be back next week. And so until then, I'm Ryan. That's my fantastic co host, Eric. And we were glad you're with us. I'll see you guys.
But